Is there a prompt? There are 6 emergency exits.
Hello, everybody. This is Ron, your captain speaking. We are currently 30,000 feet in the air, and we haven't even left the airport. We just lit the joint. Just kidding, a little pilot humor there. We like to have fun. Our destination today is Casablanca, Morocco. So everyone, sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. We will be arriving in 6 hours.
What's going on, 7-footers? We are back. Jenna and Jarod here for another jam-packed NBA playoffs episode, and it is episode 78, Jarod. How have we kept up all this long?
I don't even know.
78 blissful, fun, argumentative, informative, pleasurable episodes. Girl loves a good adjective.
You're throwing them all out right now. No, it's been 78 episodes. We've been doing this for a couple years now, cranking it through. And I must say, this edition of the playoffs that we're watching, I mean, look, I've been watching basketball, as I always say, because I'm old, since the 80s. And this is a really exciting playoffs. Not that, a lot of playoffs have been exciting. But there's something special about this, mainly because of the bubble, the no fans and all that. But I think you're really seeing a level of competitiveness from these guys that is, not that they don't always have it, they do. It's just, it feels different, And, I know we're going to start it off talking about a series that, everybody's wilding about.
Seriously, and going off of that really quick, just how you said it's a great playoff series, it really is, because we're seeing a lot of good basketball and a lot of close basketball, and more close than I ever thought. A lot of the sweeps that we're going to start talking about, I didn't expect, and a lot of other things, and a lot of teams that I thought were really going to kind of kick the bucket are really giving people a run for their money. It's nice to see people are showing out, and we got to start with the man who has taken the NBA headlines to another level, Luka Doncic, his game winner, buzzer beater in overtime, his 3 that secured him the triple-double against the Clippers. The series is tied 2-2. Really quick, right off the bat, Jarod, I know we're, it's a little early, but can you imagine the Clippers being gone in round 1?
Well, no. And last episode I did say, if you're going to beat the Clippers, this is the round to get them, right? And it has to be the right kind of team. And Dallas is that right kind of team, right? Because they're so good offensively. Number 1 offensive efficiency team in the regular season. And they are led, of course, by their 21-year-old superstar, Luka Doncic. You know what's funny about Luka Doncic? We'll get to this part later, but that game, he was coming off a sprained ankle that he suffered the game prior. But he had 43 points, 17 rebounds, 13 assists. I mean, he was, he was all that, like everything. And it's so interesting, too, because, of course, what everybody's talking about on the internet is, oh, Reggie Jackson, oh, this, oh, that. And it's like, look, a step back 3, and I think the 3 ended up being about 28 feet. And I watched the play over about 50 times on Synergy in quarter speed, half speed, and full speed, just to be like, all right, what could have been different? And honestly, if you are the defense, that's the shot that you will live with, because even though he can make them, that is not a high percentage shot. I believe Second Spectrum came up with the stats. That shot had a 26.9% chance of going in. That's not real high, right?
No.
That means it was like 70 other something percent chance that it wouldn't have gone in, right? And Jackson did get a contest. Now, Reggie Jackson's only 6'3", so maybe if he was 6'7", it would have been a little bit of a better contest. But he can't grow 4 inches, so it is what it is, right? You got to just tip your cap and be like, a great player got off the shot and made it. Like, if he missed it, what would we? It's like that, and that's that part about where the players always say it's a make-miss league, right? It isn't so much that the Clippers screwed up on it. No, they got the ball where they wanted, and an incredible player hit an incredible shot that has a likelihood of not going in. You replay that scenario 10 more times or 9 more times, he probably makes 1 more, right? Sometimes they go in and you lose. That's just how it goes. But not to take anything away from the fact that Luka's ultra competitive. He's so good. He, he's living for this moment, and what he has is belief. He said in his post game, you know, he knows that the Clippers are an elite team, one of the elite team in this league, but like we think we can play. And if you don't have belief, you don't even have a shot. So Luka, and he's competitive. He's like, look, I can be the best player on the floor. And he believes that. Whether he is or not, it's a different story. But he believes that. And that infuses the rest of his guys. Tim Hardaway Jr., Seth Curry, Trey Burke. All these dudes out here being like, yeah. Right? When your star can infuse that into you, you feel it too. Because we say all the time, look, 450 players in the NBA. Everyone is good. All right? Because you have to be good to make one of the top 450 players in the world, right? Now, there's levels within that, but everyone can play basketball in the NBA. Now, what separates is the work ethic, it's the skill level, how hard you work on your craft, and that mental side of it, the belief. And Luka believes.
Right. And to think that he was questionable to even play in that game. So imagine if he didn't play at all and he tested that ankle throughout the game. We were seeing him really doing a lot of pivots, a lot of stops, a lot of, high speed impact. So the fact that he was even able to get off and push off that ankle to make such an important shot, obviously, to win the game and tie the series. So kudos to him. I mean, like you said, that is one thing he has, his belief and his attitude among anyone else. You have to have that kind of mentality, especially when you're up against the juggernaut that is the Clippers, that everybody has you counted as the underdogs and everybody has you guys kind of in their minds or predictions or whatever being swept. So a lot of that, in my opinion, or what is evident, is that it's mental. It really is. Yes, the skill is there, but we always say on this podcast too, the skill only goes so far. It really does. You kind of got to pull that Mamba mentality.
Well, we are recording this on 8/24, which of course is Kobe Day. His birthday was yesterday, the 23rd. And it is Mamba Week, and Nike's released a bunch of stuff. By the way, if you want to learn about that, check out my other show, Kicks and Shit Show with Gabby Rosenthal. We put out a whole video about that.
Love a shameless plug.
But all that is true, and Luka certainly has that mentality. The other thing that I think is so fascinating here in this series, and by the way, as everyone knows who listens to this podcast, I said Clippers in 6, and that's still on the table, right? They win the next 2, Clippers in 6.
It is.
And I gave the Mavs 2 games because I'm like, look, Luka and KP are really good. Like, so they can win. Luka can win a game by himself. And I don't want to say by himself because that's not fair to Trey Burke. And some of those other guys played really well. Seth Curry. But Luka's incredible, right? 43, 17, and 13 says it all. He is on a short list with players with the most points with a winning buzzer beater in NBA postseason history, right? Dame, we remember the shot Dame hit last year to send Paul George home, and we'll get to him in a minute. LeBron James, 44 points in 2018. Michael Jordan, 89, 44 points over the Cleveland Cavaliers in that memorable playoff series. Luka, we just mentioned, and Kawhi Leonard last year against the Philadelphia 76ers on that memorable 17 million bounce shot. The Clippers right now, defensively, are not tethered, and you can see it, right?
Yeah.
They're not locking in defensively. And I've said this ad nauseum on this show and on others. They are the best defensive team in the league when they are connected and locked in. They ain't right now, for whatever reason. I don't know how much of it is what Dallas is doing as much as it is they just don't seem to be like they're not playing with the requisite force and ferocity needed. Doc Rivers after the game called them an emotionally weak team. Right? Strong words from your head coach. And let's be real about that game. They were up 21 points, and then it was like, oh, they thought they were good, like the game was over. Like they took their foot off the gas, and then Luka and the Mavs went nuts. And this is the NBA, man. 20-point lead don't mean shit. Like if you up 20 and think, all right, the game's done. Well, yeah, it'll be done because you're about to get caught.
Exactly. And that's a good point, too, because the game of basketball, especially, it changes so fast as opposed to, obviously other sports that you see like the NFL and this and that. They don't have high scoring games. It's just not how it works. But in the NBA and on the floor like that, like you said, a 20-point lead, that could be diminished literally. Give us a few seconds. In one night, LeBron can go on a scoring tear and score 14 points in, X amount of minutes. That's just how it works. So it is interesting. And back to Paul George, we have to call a spade a spade. He's not playing very well right now, especially on the offensive end. And, he came out with that whole quote saying, I'm not James Harden. I'm not going to knock down whatever he said. I'm paraphrasing, but, referencing shooting. It's just not acceptable for the playoffs. It is what it is.
He was here to be Kawhi Leonard's number 2. He, the last few games, has not been playing like a number 2. He's playing like a number 3. Like Reggie Jackson's been playing. Hell, Lou Williams and Reggie Jackson were better than him yesterday. He was the 4th best offensive player last night.
Right.
Defensively, he's fine. The problem is that, and people are saying it's mental. I don't know because I'm not in his head. What I see, however, is he's getting to his spots on the floor.
Right.
The shots just aren't falling for whatever reason. Now, this could just be he's in a slump right now. And, bad time to be in a 3-game funk. But here we are. Late in the game, you did see a couple moments where he did seem tentative to want to pull the jumper for fear that he'd miss. So that part is mental for sure. I just know that if you want to put out that kind of playoff P moniker or what have you, my guy, you got to show it and do it. And you haven't shown anything. And I do want to make something clear, though. This is a guy who early in his career, when he was on Indiana, he went to back-to-back conference finals against LeBron James and played well. So it's not like he hasn't played well on big stages before. It's just that lately, what we see from him in the playoffs ain't good. And I don't know what that's about.
Right, and that's why I say it's unacceptable. He's played on that big stage before, especially against arguably the best player in the world. So we need to see a turnaround ASAP because this 2-2 series really makes me nervous.
Well, if you're the Clippers, look, you got to realize, hey, we played about as poorly as we could play in the second half, and we still almost won this game, right? That's your saving grace. I will say this. Not having Patrick Beverley on the floor is hurting them because he is that person that leads with the requisite force on defense.
Mm-hmm.
So people are saying, "Oh, Reggie Jackson on Luka mismatch." Yeah, Luka on most small guys, definite mismatch. Pat Beverley, nah, not really, because Pat is that kind of guy that will get up under your chin, literally, like will get up under you, right? And will throw his body at abandon and not care, right? Again, it's not saying that Reggie Jackson isn't capable or whatever. It's more that Pat plays with a different kind of edge defensively, right? Because that's his calling card. That's how he stays in this league, is by being a dog, right? And being like, oh, Kevin Durant 7 foot and whatever, I don't care. I'm going to get up into him, right? Like, because he's in his mind can believe, no, I can bother him and make this hard. Like, we talked about belief. And not having that person on the floor, that hurts them a little bit right now, right? Because because when he's doing that, it feeds off to the rest of the guys. Right.
Couldn't agree more. And just the presence he has on the floor alone, like you said, he gets up under people's chins. He's very aggressive. I mean, like he's one of those guys that we always kind of say in these types of scenarios, you look at the box score and it's not really what you see because he's kind of like a tough PJ Tucker type, but even, arguably tougher. So not having that presence on the floor, it messes up the tone. It messes up the vibe. He's a veteran Clippers, OG. So when he's not on the floor screaming, barking like a dog, it's like, okay, now our flow is messed up almost. So,
especially defensively, right? Because that's where he makes his biggest impact. And that's what I say about the Clippers is that when you have him on the floor with PG, with Kawhi, right, like with Montrez, that's a very dangerous defensive team. But right now, without Pat Bev, right, it's hurting them. And look, all that being said, series is still tied 2-2, right? Like it is now first team to get to 2 out of the next 4, right? Out of the next 3, excuse me. So I mean, I still like the Clippers better because when push comes to shove, I know they can defend. Right now, if Beverley doesn't come back and Luka continues to go on a crazy hot streak, who knows? Right? This could end differently, but I still like Clippers in 6 because again, there is a level they can get to, and I think Doc found something at the end of that game, putting in Shamit and subbing out. And subbing out Zubac, right, which is actually the first time the Clippers had played that lineup all season, and that's actually how they went on that 10-0 run, shut the Mavs out, and forced the game into overtime, right? So there's something they found there. So I like that. I do have a question for you, however. There were people in the 2018 draft who were like, nah, DeAndre Ayton, Marvin Bagley, all these dudes are better than Luka Doncic, right? And I'm like, I don't know what y'all people smoking, but they certainly ain't that, right? I mean, Luka was dominating the second best league in the world when he was a teenager. Like, I mean, so what? DeAndre Ayton and Marvin Bagley were playing NCAA basketball. NCAA basketball is trash compared to the EuroLeague. Like, I mean, it is. It's trash. Like, so who cares that those guys were doing that then? But anyway, I have a question for you about that draft, about two players in particular. If you were a team GM and you had two players to pick from to start your team around from that draft, Luka Doncic or Trae Young, who are you taking? Because I know you love Trae Young.
I can't believe you put me in this position. I can't believe you put me in this position. I was laughing before while you were talking because I thought this question was going to be centered around, for some reason, like Ayton or Bagley. Bagley's my boy. But, oh my gosh. Okay. Well, let's be serious here.
Let's be serious. Exactly.
I'm going to pick Luka because of obvious reasons. He's coming from the EuroLeague. He has more experience. He's already, had so many accolades at the age of 18 and younger before any of these guys. And like your point about, the NCAA. The thing that I like about Trae Young, why I go to bat for him so much, is because you know me. I love a good underdog. I love a good small guy. A little small point guard, like a young Isaiah Thomas, things like that. And I mean the younger Isaiah Thomas, but the other one's great as well. But I'm going to go with Luka, obviously, because of the known facts. It's like a resume. It's on paper, like everything is there. You can't shy away from it.
No.
You know what I mean? And the experience is there, the toughness, the grit. Trae Young just gets me on the offensive end with his shooting. And I think it's more of like his heart and drive for Atlanta and kind of being that driving force as a leader there. So Atlanta, I love that they have shaped the team around him. But if I'm going to put money on it and I'm going to bet like something good, Luka.
I mean, look, and this is not about shade to Trae Young. I was just asking because I know you love Trae so much.
I love the question.
I kind of wanted to put you. Yeah, I wanted to put you in that tough spot. But I mean, it's not even close, right? Luka is by far the better player. It's not even a question. I mean, if you take Luka off Dallas and put Trae there and put Luka in Atlanta, Hawks go to the playoffs. Mavericks ain't, right? I mean, that's just what happens, right? Like, that's just how that's gonna work.
Not to mention what secures everything, and Luka does what he does, and he did it last night on a sprained ankle.
Yeah.
And I read a story with ESPN about how he was real tough on the ankle. Obviously, playing all out, it's a playoff game, and it matters. And then he left, hobbled back to the locker room, I guess, rode, the bike for a couple minutes, and then went back in the game, I think, with like 8 minutes left. So, yes, he's firing on adrenaline and things like that, but I mean, dang. Like, you need your ankle. We don't got like a finger or a pinky or a toe, you need your ankles.
He's excellent. He's only 21, only getting better. And, look, the Mavericks, look, a lot of things have to go right? I mean, look, we can get excited about all this. We don't want to be prisoners of the moment. Like, there's still a long way to go before you're like crowning them as like the greatest team of all time and he's the next LeBron James or whatever. I mean, LeBron James didn't win the title till like his 8th year in the league. I mean, like you ain't just showing up out here and like, all right, cool. Like this league is hard. There are too many good teams, but he and the Mavericks are on the right path. And regardless of how this turns out, and again, I still Clippers in 6, they have equipped themselves well, and I'm looking forward to them going forward.
I agree. Let's move on because we got to talk about another good battle between two young guys. We got to talk about Jamal Murray of the Nuggets and Donovan Mitchell of the Jazz. The Jazz lead the series 3-1. Donovan Mitchell, when he's been on a scoring tear, which is kind of a rare thing for him in the playoffs. I mean, he had an early exit in the first round last year, and now he has a chance to secure his team to the second round if he can clinch that next win for Game 5 and push his team forward. I mean, the kid's been on a scoring tear, and you can't take away from Jamal either. He had a good 50 points in game 4, but it wasn't enough because obviously the Jazz propelled. I mean, what was it? Donovan walked away with 50, 11, and 7. Jamal was 51, 4, and 7. So, or I might have flip-flopped those numbers.
Yeah, it was Murray. Murray had 50, 11, and 7, and Spider had 51, 4, and 7.
Yeah, totally flip-flop the numbers, but let's be serious. Both dropped 50. I mean, we're looking at good numbers here. It's a young battle. Talk to me about this matchup because obviously the Jazz are taking it, but Jamal Murray's putting up a fight. I mean, we're seeing a really great young offensive one-on-one battle with this series, which I personally love. I think this is a great story for Mitchell as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these two young point guards are playing so well right now, and the unsung part about it for Utah is Mike Conley's back, and Mike Conley's playing well, and that helps. When there's that other person that can handle ball responsibilities and can shoot it, that gives Donovan a release valve that he didn't have that when Conley was out for the birth of his son. I didn't think the Jazz would be putting it on Denver this badly. As I believe I picked Denver and the Nuggets in 6, and that ain't happening. And it looks highly unlikely that the Nuggets win the next 3 games in a row, right? The Jazz are playing really well right now. Rudy Gobert, obviously we know what he does defensively, but offensively, everything he's doing around the rim, catching those lobs, and like he's playing well. And for Denver, what's hurting them obviously is their defense. And not having Will Barton and Gary Harris, I knew was all right, that's a problem, but like, is it this big of a problem? Like, they cannot shut or stop anyone down in the backcourt or on the wing. They just can't. For whatever reason, they got nothing. And we love Michael Porter Jr. on this podcast, but offensively, MPJ is doing fine, but defensively, they target him every time he's on the floor, every single time. And this is all part of the learning experience. We talk about it. Like, this is how you get better, man. Reps. You need reps. And this Denver team, this is going to be a disappointing playoff loss for them, especially given how well they've played the past couple seasons. Jokic, as much, and we love Jokic, and he's great. What makes him so good is his passing ability on the post. He can stretch it and shoot for a big. I mean, he's an elite level passer. But he's a big guy who isn't that mobile or nimble, right? Like, he's just not. So you catch him on a switch and you're Donovan Mitchell or whatever, you're roasting him, right? Like, that's just how it's going because he doesn't move his feet as well. Denver's going to have to look at some things. Look, the pieces are there, right? They have the pieces they need to be a good team, to be an excellent team. Because, look, they were the 3rd seed for a reason. But this playoff series opened up some eyes and around what they need to get better at and improve. And wing D, I mean, that's number 1. But again, no Barton, no Harris. Like,
exactly. I mean, I never thought that it would be this much of a gap, for real. I had this conversation with my dad, too, when the playoffs first started, and I think the Nuggets and Jazz were having game 1, and I was like, this is going to be a good one. It's going to be a close series. I said it, and now I'm eating my words. So it's insane. I mean, like I said, I love seeing these young guys show out and ball out because it really, especially seeing them since they were drafted and being around it because these guys are younger, you see the growth and the maturity. And I feel like last year's early elimination from the playoffs really did a number on Donovan Mitchell. I think it really did. I think this year he came back with some type of mojo, some type of confidence. I mean, he had 16 of their last 20 points in this game. And before he made that last shot, I don't know if you caught it, he looked over at the Nuggets bench and sunk it. That is confidence.
Moxie.
And you can't teach it.
No.
You can't.
No, he's got that. And yeah, again, of course he learned from the early round exit, right? It's reps. When the more reps you get, you understand what needs to be done to then know, oh, this is what I got to work on in the offseason to get my game better so that when the situation happens again, because it will, I am better prepared. And with the Jazz being healthy, I mean, obviously no Bogdanovich, but we knew that was that well in advance. With Conley coming back and shooting it well, this is helpful for them. Really, really helpful. The Jazz are frisky, man. Like, they are a frisky squad, and again, they're taking this series. I mean, that game was close last night and back and forth again. Jamal Murray, he was balling. Like, hell of a duo between him and Donovan. But I just think right now the Jazz have a certain feeling of confidence about them that they don't believe that this Nuggets team can beat them 3 times in a row. And we have not seen anything that would suggest that they're going to do that. So it's looking like the Jazz, up 3-1 right now, are going to take this. Although, we have seen 3-1 leads get blown in the past.
Why? We've moved on.
Well, it's not. No, it's. I mean, a bunch of teams did it. The Warriors did it.
You know what I'm saying, okay? I'm feeling a little ways out here. All right, let's move on to obviously one of the most exhilarating series that we're watching right before our eyes, the Lakers and the Trailblazers. LA leads the series 2-1, and Dame and the Blazers are giving them a run for their money, but not in Game 3 because that was LeBron James's game, and that is that.
Yeah.
So much to the point where Anthony Davis had to pull him aside at the half and say, "Listen, man, I got to take some of the weight. I have to. Like, you're insane." James, he finished with 38 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists. He did what he does best. I mean, Anthony Davis scored 23 of his 29 points in the second half. So he delivered his promise. And big game for LBJ. And he predicted prior to that, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, Game 3 is a big one. It is a big one for me. We got to be locked in, this and that. So real quick question, is it safe to say that playoff LeBron has arrived?
I don't know if I'll quite say it yet because he still doesn't look fully like himself. Like when you watch him move around the court, something still looks off. Yes, you got the points, the rebounds, the assists, all that, but still not looking like himself. But I will say this. He's so correct about the importance of Game 3. And as of the date we're recording this podcast, Game 4 will be tonight. He was so correct about that Game 3 being important. There's something psychological about a basketball series when it is tied 1-1 or 2-2. You always want to be the team to get that Game 3 and that Game 5 are pivotal because it's always better for you to be 2-1 or 3-2, right? Because psychologically, the team behind you was like, shit, we got to win the next, right? They're already doing the math in their head. Okay. It's sort of, it seems obvious, but it plays on you, right? Like, and of course, you'd rather be up 3-2 than down 3-2, right? Like, it's all those things. But in a tie at 1-1 and 2-2, that Game 3 and that Game 5, pivotal. We talked about the Clippers and Mavericks to start. Game 5 is pivotal. Like, to me, the winner of Game 5 is winning the series. Right? Like, I just feel that. I think it'll be the Clippers. But look, the Mavs win Game 5. You know how much pressure the Clippers are going to be feeling? Down 3-2 as the team supposed to be winning the title. Now, Kawhi going to be his usual Kawhi self because he's Kawhi. The rest of them, I don't know. Right? So, again, LeBron's so right. And that's what we talked about. That is that experience of having been through a cajillion playoffs and knowing, no, we got to win Game 3. Right? Because now we are up, and now Portland's got to feel like, shit, we can't let this get too far out ahead. Because if it goes 3-1, Portland knows, we not beating the King 3 games in a row, right? So they have to keep it tethered and close, right? And so I like what I'm seeing from the Lakers defensively. They are playing defense way better than the Clippers are playing right now because the Lakers almost seem like they are like, all right, this Dame dude is a real problem. Like, his guy can beat us by himself. We got to fly around the ball, and everyone's got to get into it and guard. Look, it's cliche, but it's true. Like, defense wins champion. Like, you have to get stops. Like, you got to string stops together. You're not going to shut teams out. That's not how this works. But you have to be able to string together defensive stops. And the Lakers were able to do that. That's what was able to get them that 2-1 lead. And honestly, going into tonight's game, I like him again. Again, they still have no matchup for Anthony Davis, right? Like Nurk. I mean, I love Nurk, and Collins is out. Not that Collins can stop him either. Whiteside? Nah. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, Melo? Nah. the Lakers are starting to stretch themselves a little bit, and again, I think they win tonight. They go up 3-1, and I picked them to win in 5, I believe. Anyway, so sounds good to me.
I think they're going to go up 3-1 tonight. I think they're on a good adrenaline rush. Not to mention, your best player in Dame is dealing with the finger issue, dislocated finger. Obviously, it's minor, but still, it's still an injury, and it's the playoffs, and you still have CJ who's dealing with his back issues. So there's that there. And like you said, Collins is out, season-ending ankle surgery. So we're already having little speed bumps in the road, and you don't want that when you're playing a team like LeBron James and the Lakers. It's just not gonna work.
No doubt.
And what the Blazers have, though, is that belief, like we were talking about with Luka and the Mavs, because Dame is that guy. He believes in this team so much that I feel like he almost has them psychologically trained and running on like a hamster wheel. Like, yes, we can do it. Yes, we can do it. Yes, we can do it. And unfortunately, in my opinion, that's only going to get you so far, especially with the injuries I just named. And, Melo's obviously a good contributor. He dropped 20 points in the last game, but not enough. I mean, they switched the lineup. They had Hassan Whiteside alongside Nurkic, big 5, but didn't obviously work.
No.
So, no match.
And look, Dame can still go nuclear, drop 50, and will them to a game. I just, over the course of a 7-game series, the Blazers just don't have enough. And again, the Lakers are defending. So I see the Lakers taking a commanding lead tonight, going up 3-1, and then, wrapping it up in 5.
Couldn't agree more, and that's a tough opponent to face in the first round.
No doubt.
Blazers game. So, we'll see what happens, but I think we know what is going to happen. So let's move on to another series that I truly, truly do not know what is going to happen. The Rockets and the Thunder. Houston leads the series 2-1 right now, but again, it is a close one, and they blew game 3. They missed going up 3-0 in a dramatic finish with CP3 hitting a huge shot at the end of the game. Super clutch. Not surprised there. I would bet a lot of money and give him the ball at the end of a game. I have to say, I was on vacation with my parents, and my dad is wild and crazy, and we're in the middle of a nice restaurant, and he's blasting the game on his phone, thinking nothing about the people sitting around him. And I obviously agreed because it was a good game. He hit that shot. The phone was leaning against a wine bottle, and him and I flipped back in our chairs and then came forward. My mom had her head down in shame.
She's like, I don't know these people.
We're like, Mom, CP3 though, CP3. Basically embarrassed our entire family, but it was worth it. And we got to talk about it because Chris Paul and co. are the team that I specifically referenced in the beginning of this episode when I said we're seeing these teams play harder than we would have ever thought in this bubble. And I think, obviously there's a lot of feelings with this particular matchup.
No doubt.
On each side, because Harden is kind of like the poster child for getting made fun of for choking in the playoffs. And Chris Paul, he's on this what people labeled as a trash team. And when people were like, yeah, they dumped him off in Oklahoma, haha, gonna be funny when you're not in the playoffs. And here we are. So talk to me about this series.
I picked the Thunder to actually pull the upset in 7, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. That was my prediction.
I think you did.
Look, I've loved this Oklahoma City Thunder team all season. I love their 3-guard lineup with CP3, SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Dennis Schroeder. They spread the floor nicely. They can shoot it from deep. I just like this squad a lot. And Chris Paul, he's the point guard. That's my guy, man. Love watching him play. And that game 4 is actually going on right now as we record this. I think that, again, without Westbrook on the floor, and he still has not suited up yet because that hamstring quad, that makes the playing field a little bit more even. Of course, we know James Harden is incredible and can go nuclear. Dude's been an MVP, top 5 MVP in the voting for a million times. He's so good. We know this. But there are ways that you can exploit that small ball with Steven Adams on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And they're doing a little bit of that. They're a little bit better in game 3. And look, again, if this series gets tied 2-2, all that pressure's gone. Shift back to Houston. They're going to be like, what's going on? Are we getting Russ back? What's happening? And again, Chris Paul, the reps, he's seen it all, right? I mean, the computer brain can go through it. He knows the different machinations, where he's got to be, who's got to do what. I just like this team a lot, and I think that, if some subtle adjustments get made on the OKC side, they could definitely make this like way more difficult than the Rockets want it to be. And I think there's a chance of that. Again, the key is winning tonight, right? They gotta tie this up, because they go down 3-1.
Exactly.
That 3-1. There's a reason why it's only happened twice, and it's because it's hard, man. Like, it's hard to beat another team 3 times in a row. Like, it's really difficult.
Oh, you have to be firing off on all cylinders, having perfect games, and going at 100% for the next 3 games.
Particularly when the teams are super talent, are close in talent level, right? Like, so, yeah.
And just a note, Westbrook is listed as out for Game 4, so I'm thinking Game 5 is a more realistic target for him to return with that quad. So they're really going to need his presence on the floor and his help, because, again, yes, Harden can go on a tear, but how much do we have to utilize Harden to go 150% every night?
And then are we trusting Eric Gordon and Robert Covington and Daniel House and all those guys, like, Jeff Green and
Right, and PJ Tucker made a big 3 in the game, but I think that was like his only 3.
Well, remember I said to you, PJ having to guard Steven Adams is going to hurt his legs, right? Like, because Steven Adams is such a big dude, and you need your legs to shoot. So yeah, I think, even though they've jumped out to a 2-0 lead, I think this series is going long. I feel that.
Hey, I'm ready for a good battle. The narrative is great. So, and Chris Paul is the kind of guy that you just like to see good things happen to.
I like Chris Paul. I mean, look, yeah, I get it. Like, he is a difficult teammate to have because of his exacting nature and the way he will harp on something over and over and over. And clearly James was not a fan of that, right? And that led to their breakup. But Chris is usually right now. He can probably deliver his message a little bit better. That would be more helpful. But that's just that's who Chris is. He is so ultra competitive, right? Like, it's how he's wired, man. And that spirit is breathing life into OKC. And again, a team that you said a lot of people thought were going to be an afterthought. What? SGA, Chris Paul, and Danilo Gallinari, that team's going to be trash. And sure enough, they're pretty good.
You're telling me. I love the surprises. I love being proved wrong in these types of scenarios. So, again, this is fun, but they got to clench this next win with Houston here. So we'll see, and we'll continue to monitor Westbrook.
Close game right now. Rockets up 2, 46-44, 10 minutes to go in the second. So early and close.
Dang. Okay. Well, let's just be happy that October's coming. The witches come out with the brooms, because we're going to need them. Because the Celtics have swept the Sixers in this amazing rivalry, although Joel Embiid says it's not a rivalry because they, quote, kick our ass, which I can't really disagree. So, obviously the big question before we get to the Celtics here is what's next for Philly? Because in my opinion, like we have talked about on this podcast before, I feel like we've been asking, okay, one more shot until, they got to get rid of Brett Brown, or they have to potentially separate Joel and Ben. So obviously Ben wasn't present for this playoff series, which maybe could have been a bit different if he had that presence on the floor. But you guys know, got the kneecap surgery and this and that. But again, the Sixers suffer a terrible upset in the first round of the playoffs, and this is now a repeating cycle.
Well, technically not an upset, because the Celtics were the 3 seed and the Sixers the 6. So the Celtics were the better team all regular season, so not actually an upset. But
you know what I mean,
yes,
though.
You mean being swept. Yes, you mean being swept.
Take it personal, this big upset, especially Joel Embiid. We've seen his emotions come out through the losses in the playoffs before, but that kind of stuff. Talk to me about, do you predict some changes happening in Philly? Have you heard anything? It is early, but I feel like this is a question that we were kind of waiting to pull out.
Look, the culture in Philly is not good, right? Let's just call it out there and call a spade and put it out there. The fact that we are still now asking questions about Joel Embiid's fitness level and how serious he's taking the game, to me, that is a problem. Right? Like that's just, your star players can't be like that. That can't be. That's just not a thing. And I don't know. They need a culture reset, right? Like it's this whole trust the process, whatever. Yo, the process did not work. Okay, like it didn't. On the one hand, you got two players, 25 and younger, who, again, I've said this numerous times. Embiid's got the talent. The talent now, I said. And I'm very deliberate and careful about the words I'm using. He has the talent to be an MVP and Defensive Player of the Year in the same season kind of guy. Ben Simmons can be all NBA on both sides of the ball. Has the talent to. Now, why aren't they there yet? Why aren't we seeing the progressions heading there? We got theories on that. And shouts out to Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer, the beat writer for the 76ers. He wrote in a recent piece that part of it is the organization, when they drafted these guys, basically let them run carte blanche around the organization as if they were already established superstars. They ain't done shit yet to be having that kind of, you don't get to be LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, whatever, until you've done what they've done. Like y'all ain't done shit. What do you mean? Like, whoa. Have y'all been out the first round? Like, whoa. Okay, you got the second round. Like, I mean, they've done nothing. Okay, you got some all-star appearances. Cool. But I mean, and like, to have the talent of those two and for that squad to not be better that's an organizational issue. I don't know what the ownership group in Philly is doing. I don't know if they have given Elton Brand, the GM, the power and the ability to implement the culture he wants. I don't know what kind of culture he wants to implement. I don't know what his direction is. They've made some curious decisions in signings. You got Al Horford now, who doesn't allow Joel Embiid to be his best because they essentially play the same position. So, and you've got money invested in him that who in the league is taking that Al Horford contract? Oh, I got the answer. Nobody. Right? Like, so you got this money locked up into these three dudes who, all right, you got the two young guys, but people around the league are starting to talk. That I do know. That part I know is true. Talking to people around the league, do those guys want it bad enough? We're not sure. And when that rap starts going on about you, that's not a good look. And yeah, Brett Brown, of course he's going to be fired. Listen, as with everything, it isn't one person, right? There's plenty of blame for everybody to get. The easy cosmetic fix is going to be, okay, fire Brett Brown. Okay, cool. But what coach are you bringing in here that is now going to hold them dudes accountable? Who is it? You know? Because I don't know. Who is it?
You kill me.
Well, but these are the things, though, right? Because again, if they want to be great, there needs to be a system of greatness set up, and there needs to be accountability across the board. That is clearly not there. Yo, the fact that Ben wouldn't shoot the ball and they still kept playing, I'm like, yo, what is this? And again, what that tells me is Simmons has more control than the coach. And that's the NBA is a player league. I understand that. But there's got to be a way in which you, as the coach, as GM, as whatever, you are allowed to have a system and a culture in place that you get buy-in from. If dudes don't want to be in and buy in, yo, y'all got to go, right? We got to figure something else out because it ain't working here. And because beginning of the season, talent-wise, I picked Philly. I was like, I love this team to come out of the East, right? Like, and everyone sees their talent, but I'm done with their talent now. Great, talent's wonderful, hurrah! Congrats on your first-round exit in the playoffs, right? And embarrassingly too, swept. Okay, no Ben Simmons, but yo, you still got Joel Embiid. Joe should have won a game by himself. He ain't do that.
That was the most, in our years, in all 78 episodes, that was the most flawless, angelic
Angelic.
smackdown you have ever given to a team on this podcast. You did not even stutter. There, every pause in your voice was hysterically accurate, and for that I thank you. That was great.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I really did enjoy that, and no shade of the Sixers, but enough is enough. I'm sick of reading the same book.
They're a
I know
dumpster fire.
what's gonna happen.
Dumpster fire.
Mm-hmm.
Dumpster fire.
They are the dumpster fire. That is it. So again, the questions like, where do we go from here and this and that? I mean, we're going to need to see a drastic change. And that drastic change may be somebody big leaving Philadelphia. And where and how and why.
I have a question for you. You are now the GM of the Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay.
You got Brett Brown, you got Embiid, you got Simmons, you got Horford tied up to that deal. I believe you have Josh Richardson tied up to that deal. What do you do with Brett Brown? Does he get first question? Are you firing Brett Brown?
No.
Wow, you're keeping Brett. Okay. Why are you keeping Brett?
I'll give him one more year.
Okay.
A 1-year deal.
Okay.
To turn it around.
So he's basically a lame duck coach. You're like, yo, if you don't, you got 1 year. If it ain't good,
have 1 year.
Okay.
Because there's already a culture issue in Philly, but then bring in a new coach, and then you got to do a lot of other adjustments that way.
Okay.
We'll give him 1 more year.
All right. So next question. You keeping both Embiid and Simmons, or you can try to move one of them?
No, I'm going to move one of them.
And which one are you moving?
A lot of people won't agree with me. I will move Embiid. I just think that there's too much against him. He is always injured. I feel as though a point guard like Ben Simmons, who doesn't even need to be a point guard.
Right,
he can play, a ton of other positions on the floor, is hard to come by. A 6'10" point guard who can bring it to the rack straight through a group of big men and still, facilitate the ball, still play, not just the point guard position. Ben Simmons is more versatile. Ben Simmons is less injury prone. Ben Simmons is more of the rare type that you see come along, every blue moon here. But, until Joel Embiid makes such a drastic change from his body to his lifestyle to even maybe his mentality a little bit, there's too much work for me with Joel Embiid. So right now, I'm keeping who I think is running a little better at the moment, and that's going to be Ben.
So you are banking on the fact that you think Ben Simmons will eventually start shooting and learn to shoot.
Yes. Because
a 6'10" point guard who can't shoot is useless.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to bank on the fact that, just because, again, I haven't seen him in full force because he got injured so soon. But, from what I hear, he's been putting in the work. From what I see a little bit, it's looking good. I would take Ben. I would keep Ben.
So maybe what you could do with Simmons is kind of like how they did with LeBron back in the day. You put Simmons on the floor as your 6'10" point guard. You surround him with 4 shooters, 4 floor spacers.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Again, 6'10" point guard who can't shoot, useless. I totally get that and couldn't agree more. But if the Sixers can get shooting down, then
that's a big
maybe we can take the pressure off of Ben a little bit. Ben, you got to shoot at least a couple times. But come on.
It's interesting. I do think that you got to split them up because for whatever reason this ain't working. Now, actually, I take that back. Forget that. Again, two dudes 25 and younger with that talent. How the F? No, you cannot split that up. Got to keep that together because they are too talented. I'm telling you what I am doing. Culture reset. And I don't know how much the ownership is giving them the authority and allowing them to empowering these GMs and head coaches to do their job. But I am bringing in a whole new regime, and we're like, listen, man, You don't get two players of these two players' caliber anytime. Like, that's just not how it goes. Like, they don't, like, to your point, they don't come around. We have got to find a way to make this work. And I am holding them accountable like that, because we're only going to be as good as a franchise as these two are. And they have to demonstrate that in everything they do. And clearly they're not.
Right. I mean, I could see keeping them because, again, like you said, it's such a rare duo. But if it were to come down to it, that's who I would pick.
You're shipping Embiid.
But I could see, keeping them, making it work, culture reset, kind of like a little bit what the Nets did, but just not, with the whole roster retool. But, I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. I mean, these two great talents, and it's just not happening. Well, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's an issue.
It's because talent is not enough, as we talk about. Like, you got to want this. Like, the NBA is a want-it league. Like, we just talked about Luka at the top of the show. Luka wants it. Like, you can see he wants to be the best player every single night he's on the floor. I don't see that from Joel and Ben every night. I just don't.
I agree. I completely agree. And it seems to be the case. The feeling isn't there, like you said. So, a lot of question marks around that. But let's go and move on to the Raptors, because they also swept the Nets. Mm-hmm. And now the Raptors and the C's are going to face off. Okay. And not to mention, it's going to be this I'm very excited about because, the thing with these two teams is now the C's, obviously, they're going to take on the reigning champs. Now, it's the first ever postseason series between these two teams, which is exciting because we know nothing. We've never seen these two go at it in the postseason. So it's going to be fun. I think, the matchup in, Kemba and Kyle Lowry is exciting. I think Jason Tatum's got his legs underneath him now, obviously.
Jaylen Brown playing well.
Jaylen Brown, everything. The Celtics are just looking real good right now. And not to take away from the Raptors, though, because like we just had this conversation on the last episode, they're doing it, and they're doing it well without Kawhi.
No doubt.
Credit where credit's due. These are two great teams. This is going to be really fun. So really quick, though, back to the Raptors. They swept the Nets. And in my opinion, I'm not seeing really there's no surprise there. I mean, you don't have
– the Nets were very shorthanded. They had nobody. I mean, this was – I said this was going to be a sweep, and it was. Like, kudos to the Nets for, like, giving effort, and, like, Karis LeVert and Chioza and Jarrett Allen, like – but, no, they had no shot. I mean, the Raptors, in my mind – I just love this team so much. I love how Nick Nurse coaches them. I think this Raptors-Celtics series is going to be really good because you've got two of the better coaches in the league. Yes, I'm giving Brad Stevens his credit. He is one of the better coaches in the league. He's just not the best coach in the league, like how some people like to talk about him. But I just think that, Nurse and Stevens, X's and O's and scheming, and again, especially on the Nurse side, someone who we know is not afraid to be like, oh, that plan ain't working, I'm going to scrap that and do something else, like in the middle of a game, because he doesn't care. Because he's like, we got to win. And I want to, Kyle Lowry being healthy is important. He sprained his ankle in game 4 of that Nets series early in the first quarter. And so I hope he's healthy because they're going to need Kyle Lowry because they need someone to offset Kemba. And Kyle's their engine, right? Like, he's the guy that takes charges. All those things that, like, and again, I hate these silly phrases, but all the stats that don't show up in the box score, but it's true about Kyle, right? Like, there is a tone that he sets for the Raptors, and it's important. And the question is going to be, are the Celtics wings, Brown and Tatum, are they going to be better than Pascal Siakam, Norman Powell, Serge Ibaka, Chris Boucher? Like, are they going to be better than those guys? That's what it's going to be. And this is going to be a physical series. It's going to be I think a good level of high level of basketball. I could see this series going 7 easily because there's so much talent on the floor, so much talent. And again, the X factor you give the Raptors are they've hit big shots on the biggest stage. Like, when you've gone head to head with the Warriors, I mean, no team really is going to scare you, right? They're not.
Right.
They're not afraid of any. I mean, Celtics not, but you know what I mean? They're not afraid of anyone. Like, they're like, all right, we know what we got to do. Like, we've been here before, and they can rely on those moments. Again, Celtics have experience as well, but not quite as much. So I think it'll be a great series. And again, I do think that Boston could win this series. I do think, however, that no Gordon Hayward is going to be a factor for them because that's part of that second unit that can score. Not having him is going to matter. And again, Toronto just seems to have these plethora of 6'9" guys who just come out of nowhere and just hit 3 threes, and you're like, who the f is that? Like, who's that dude? Like, and not to mention Fred VanVleet, who, I mean, my God, like, one of the smaller guys on the court, but not afraid of anything. Will take and make any big shot at any time. And yeah, I'm going Raptors, but I think it'll be a tight series.
Yeah, I think this is going to go 7 games easy. Like you said, the thing that separates these teams right off the bat for me is the fact that obviously the Raptors are the reigning champs. They have gone all the way. They know every single stage of every single moment, not to mention they are fresh off of it. So it's very, fresh in their minds. And, they were the underdogs last season. So they're kind of used to this whole narrative, like, you can't do it, this and that,
right,
and the third. So as, I don't think they're going to back down from the Celtics. I think it's going to be a grueling series. I think it's going to be good. Like you said, I'm concerned about Kyle Lowry because obviously he is the Raptors. The Raptors are Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry is the Raptors. They are just, it is what it is. And his tone and his presence on the floor, you see it, you hear it, you feel it, it's there. So if he's not there, that's an automatic, ding to them for me.
No doubt.
We need to get him back on the floor, number one.
No doubt. I think, you're dead on with everything you said there about the importance of Lowry. But again, this series will be so interesting to me. Kemba Walker is going to be a huge X factor. And are Tatum and Brown going to be those consistent guys, right? That every night you give them the ball, I need you to get me a bucket now, right? Mm-hmm. And again, we will see how it all plays out. But I think this has a chance to be a really, really exciting series. And again, I just like what the Raptors do defensively. They're so good on defense. Like, they can get so many long dudes who just clog up scoring lanes and contest and they play hard, man, and they're extremely well coached, as are the Celtics. This should be one hell of a series, and the series that both teams played prior, the Raptors against the Nets and the Celtics against the Sixers, don't tell us shit because they swept both those teams. So we don't know anything about anything because those two teams were clearly not at the level to play with Toronto and Boston. So
you're exactly right. We don't know anything. And, like I said earlier, these two teams have never had a playoff series before either. So we don't know anything. And it's so interesting, the dynamic, too, because you have this young Celtics team who are on a tear. What was it last game? Kemba and Tatum combined for what? 60 points, I think? I mean, it's insane. And, of course, we can't cancel out Jaylen Brown. And
no doubt.
They're so well coached in Brett Brown.
Marcus Smart, no doubt, yeah.
Yeah, I am going to go out on a limb since, this is we don't know anything. You're going to go with the Raps, so I'm going to take the C's in 7.
Okay.
And see what we got here, a little friendly competition. I have a quick question for you. It could be one thing, two things, quick, whatever. But I'm asking it for both sides, vice versa. What do the Raptors and the Celtics have to do to kind of adapt to each other? Who do we need to stop? Who, you know what I mean? Because you pointed out the Raptors are so good defensively, and I pointed out that the Celtics are so good offensively. So do we need to alter anything? Do we need to get Tatum to do certain things? Do we need to get a certain person to guard Pascal?
Yeah.
Or Serge Ibaka, either,
I think for the Raptors, in terms of the Celtics offense, you've got to make Jason Tatum inefficient because he still has a little bit of a propensity to take some, long twos and just, kind of give you some inefficient gameplay. Force him into that mode where, score 30 points is taking 30 shots, right? Have him clog up a lot of the offense, and not getting the ball out so that Kemba's able to do stuff and Jaylen Brown, etc. If you're the Raptors, secretly Pascal Siakam, he hasn't been shooting his three that well. I would, he's going to get a lot of looks at three. He's got to knock them down at the rate he was knocking them down at the beginning of the season. If he's shooting not well, yeah, he does stuff great defensively, but he's got to find a way to impact the game offensively when that shot's not falling, getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line, which, of course, in the playoffs are very difficult to do. That's what I'm looking at. Like, how are you making Pascal inefficient, and are you making Jaylen Brown inefficient? Jason Tatum inefficient. That's what I'm looking at.
All right, I like what I hear. Like we said, this is going to be good. I mean, I'm really excited. Probably more excited than I am, to see the Lakers move forward, and that says a lot. So, it's just going to be a grueling one. It feels like it's going to be a close one. I'm ready to be on the edge of my seat. I need to feel that way. And speaking of being on the edge of my seat, I'm not about the Bucks and the Magic. I love when you laugh at my jokes.
Well, we can kind of lump in the Bucks and Magic and the Heat and Pacers all together because let's be real, these series are over.
It's embarrassing. It's going to be a short and sweet, simple explanation here because, Milwaukee leads the series 3-1. We've said that, this has rarely been done before, that people come back from a, deficit like that. I mean, of course they teased us a little bit with that first game,
As I put in the show notes, Orlando made it cute for a day. All right?
Cute for a day.
They won game one. We were like, ooh, this is fun.
Right? I mean, even me, I'm sitting over here like embarrassed with my dunce cap on because I was like, pooping my pants over here about the freaking Bucks. And now like it's a laughing stock. So there's that. And, like you said, intertwine the Heat and the Pacers in there because Miami leads the series 3-0. I mean, Jimmy Butler fits like a glove with Miami, and they are fitting like a glove in the playoffs.
They're playing well. So the Heat Pacers game 4 will be later today, the day that we're recording this, and the Bucks actually defeated Orlando earlier today. Again, the day that we're recording this, take that 3-1 lead. Look, both those series are over. The Bucks will win the next game, go up 4-1. I believe I did say Bucks in 5, and Heat will sweep the Pacers. Setting up what I think so many basketball fans want to see, which is Milwaukee versus Miami in the next round. Because let me be clear, folks. If you are a Milwaukee Bucks fan, I would be real nervous about second round against the Miami Heat. Real nervous. Because, Orlando did a decent enough, Giannis still got his points, right? Because, Giannis is going to do it. But when you look at the stat line and you watch the game, the areas where Giannis still struggles, shooting threes, right? And shooting that mid-range shot consistently. Yes, he makes them from time to time, but consistently. He ain't Kevin Durant in the mid-range, right? I mean, no one else is, but like he ain't that, right? So defensively, you're walling off that rim and you're not letting him get those easy put-back dunks and all that, and he's got to create and hit mid-range jumpers and shoot threes. That's a win for the D, right? We'll give him those. If he makes those and beats us doing that, hey, he's the best player in the world. All right, we got beat with that. But we are not letting you get downhill on us. We're not doing that. And again, Miami's that kind of team that with Bam Adebayo and some of their guys, they can just go throw one guy at them, right? They don't need to send a bunch of help and do different things. And we know Miami is not afraid of the Bucks in the least. And I said this on the pod that we did with Dexter and Brian. Jimmy's got a little bit of that, like, you saw what he did to Chris Paul at that last seeding game when, Chris threw the ball at one of his players and Jimmy just kind of like ran him over. Like, Jimmy's that kind of dude where, he's gonna get up into Giannis a couple of times, and Giannis is so competitive that it might Giannis runs a little hot sometimes, right? And can get really fired up, start fouling extra, and just get real because he wants to win so freaking bad. Mm-hmm. I cannot wait for Heat Bucks in the next round. So hurry up. Miami beat Indiana tonight. Milwaukee take care of Orlando on Wednesday so we can get to the matchup that we're looking forward to. And I'm not going to make any predictions yet. We'll save that for our next show. But let's just say, don't be surprised in round two.
Exactly. Nice teaser there. And, jumping the gun really quick, just in a vacuum, thinking about it. If Miami eliminates the Bucks, if all this works out, like whatever,
right.
and Miami eliminates the Bucks, they are going to open the East so much.
Oh, and it's Miami, Toronto, right? And then if it's Miami, Boston, or Toronto, you can see any one of those teams coming out, right? Like any one of those teams coming out.
That's the thing. You get through the Bucks and you open up that playing field for chaos, to say the least. So we'll have to see what happens there. But, we said that we're recording this podcast on 8/24. Even the casual NBA fan will know that those numbers are numbers of the late Lakers legend Kobe Bryant, who, as we know, passed away at the end of January after a helicopter crash. His daughter Gigi perished in the crash as well, along with 7 others. And it feels like a lifetime ago because of everything that's going on in the world. But, this is still fresh. And his birthday just passed on August 23rd. So now for Game 4 tonight that we are recording this, the Lakers will be wearing special snakeskin Black Mamba jerseys against the Trailblazers to honor Kobe. They have a patch on them to honor Gigi. And number 2, it's going to be a very nice night. It's going to be a very emotional night. So this is a very big game for the Lakers. They really want to pull out this win here. So, that's going to be even more incentive for them to kind of take the lead here in this series. So, just want to, send a note to, Vanessa and the girls.
Yeah. She's been posting some really emotional stuff. She has been since Kobe died, but the last couple of days especially. And that obviously anytime that it comes around his birthday or anything like that, it's going to be extra emotional times for her. She posted over the weekend like that, she's still grieving, and it's very obvious, right? That, she hoped that she was the one to go first, not her, right? And it's just, again, as we've said on this podcast, her entire adult life, she's been Mrs. Kobe Bryant, right? That has been what she's done since she was 18 years old. So a wife and a mother that is her entire life. And so to lose love of your life and one of your daughters, like in a horrific helicopter crash. You can't even imagine what this woman is going through. But prayers to her, of course, and wrapping her and the girls in so much prayer and love, and that they're able to hopefully slowly but surely find solace and some comfort, and eventually, because you're never gonna forget, but move to a place in life where the hurt is different, right? Like it's different, right? And that's really all we can say. But RIP to Kobe, the legend. Another excellent episode of the 7-Footers podcast, NBA playoffs. Make sure you guys are watching. You know where to find us: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, at 7-Footers Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And we will see you guys soon. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Peace.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't here back. I don't wanna trap, what's a man gonna do? Chevy told me come